Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, a show that covers the best action films of all time. I'm Cisco, your host from Misfit Minded Media Reviews. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Misfit Minded, and at my website at misfitminded.com.
And I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
And today we're talking about the 1993 medical action thriller, The Fugitive. And if you haven't seen it, it's about a doctor by the name of Richard Kimball who is framed for murdering his wife who escapes and tries to prove his innocence. So, Shani B, are you a Fanny B of this movie? What do you love? What do you hate?
Total Fanny B. This is one of those OG movies that will always be close to my heart. I have a lifelong relationship to it since watching it all those years ago as a child. And yeah, I love revisiting this movie. I feel like, Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones are in their prime in this. Their work is next level in terms of elevating, what is kind of a wild story. I love a good science thriller. Give me a thriller with a weird science element I never see coming, and I will show up every time. Yeah, good twist that I had no idea was going to be a part of this, but I was cool with. And we have like Jane Lynch and Julianne Moore sneaking in super young, which is great.
Yeah.
Joey Pants, of course, and the sequences in this. Of course, there's some computers being used. There's some layering and special effects like that, but there's also just like good old fashioned helicopters and trains and buses and shit getting crashed, and I'm about that life. Yeah, proper 90s action movie, and I'm here for it. What about you?
Yeah, I thought this is I'm pretty much with you that this is a go-to, thriller movie. Like if you think of just uh thriller, what comes to mind? Like this is probably up there. Um, like you said, Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones at the top of their games. So always interesting to watch them, and I like how similar how we talked about in our Hunted episode with Tommy Lee Jones that like um he's always the cop or whatever, like the asshole cop, but you're not like you don't hate him, you know what I mean? Like you're still rooting for you don't really know who to root for like the first I would say like hour of the movie. They really because they show you the opening murder of Harrison Ford's wife, but
Wild.
like you don't know if Harrison Ford did it or not, which I kind of forgot, but it's not like he doesn't break down and say what happens. He's like very stoic in the interrogation, and you just see like glimpses of his wife being murdered. So it kind of like surprises you in that way, like you said. And yeah, and then once Tommy Lee Jones gets inserted into it, it's just like every 20 to 30 minutes it was like another great actor, like you said, Julianne Moore coming in, Jane Lynch. You're just like, oh shit. Julianne Moore for
Best.
like one scene too. It's just like, damn, okay. It's
Right?
crazy. I forgot that she was in this. But yeah, like you said, the sequences, I really don't think like especially compared to other action movies, like not CGI heavy at all, I wouldn't say. Like
Mm.
very practically done. So like a lot of good stunts we can talk about. And I just think like whenever we cover a movie that's like been copied a million times, that like
Mm.
it's important to say like this is like what set the template or whatever. But like I feel like this really, a person that's wrongfully accused. How many thrillers have we seen with that storyline? And then dye their hair and shave their beard and stuff like that. And so yeah, I just think there's so many tropes that come from this movie that somebody watching this might not know that like that. I feel like that wasn't necessarily as popular before this movie, but this movie just like
Mm-hmm.
took this and ran with it, and yeah, history, 30 years.
I mean, it even has been eternally spoofed by Sir Leslie Nielsen in the hit movie Wrongfully Accused, where they just spoof this entire movie because that's how impactful it was
Yeah.
in terms of everyone saw it, everyone knew about it.
Hmm.
And I do feel like when I was a kid watching it, I was like, oh, I'm on to something the grown-ups all think is like really cool. And I do feel like that is a testament to how this movie takes what we'll see repeated time and time again and begins it in such a grounded space
Hmm.
where the way that they keep it sort of shadowed, but that they're also really helping you see that like this guy is complex. And even Harrison Ford is like, what would it really look like if an
Hmm.
innocent man was like truly innocent and trying to prove that? And I just feel like that's something we don't have the luxury of doing in performance after this movie because everyone just likes the trope part of he's on the run,
I
he's got
know.
to prove his innocence.
Yeah.
And there's so many scenes where Harrison Ford's like,
I
I
know.
didn't do it. And you're just like, whoa, this
I
is this
don't
dramatic
care.
because like his dramatic performance always immediately undercut by Tommy Lee Jones being like, man, I've seen a bunch of people pretend to be sad about something. I know I'm not here for any of it.
One of the best lines of the 90s, let's be honest. I feel like that line won him the Oscar right there for this movie. But yeah, like I think that's a good point that I wanted to talk about too. That just like, yeah, this has been done a million times now, but like because you have Harrison Ford, one of the best actors, and Tommy Lee Jones being like the two leads, like they sell it more than anything. And even like the supporting characters, like all of the cops, I
Yes.
are like fun. It's never like I feel like in a lot of cop movies now, those scenes are always like so boring, like just like the cops doing their thing. But in this one, I like, when Harrison Ford like calls them and they're like, "Hey, we got another Richard Kimball here on the line."
Yes.
The Tommy Jones,
Yeah.
yeah, put him on. Like they all just like fucking around, and then when he realizes it's Harrison Ford, he's like, "Okay, okay, okay, everybody." Like, and
Yeah.
then they get
Yeah.
that, but it's like, yeah, they're always like kind of like breaking each other's balls, and
It felt authentic.
yeah,
They really
uh,
felt like they were a group of guys that sometimes have to sit in a car all night long uncomfortable with each other, like the camaraderie and the authenticity of all of the relationships, even straight up the one that Richard Kimball has with Jane Lynch, the biologist, who's like, "Richard, I've looked at the slides. I have the data."
well, like that's the thing too. It's like all of that's another trope. Like the people they interview, it's like that's like because whenever there's an investigation, they have to question these people, and that could be boring because you've seen that a million
Mhm.
times on Law and Order and stuff like that. But in this one, it's
Mhm.
like you're saying, that Jane Lynch loves him because she basically says that.
Yeah.
I totally respect him, and he's innocent, by the way. Like,
Mhm.
and the same thing with, spoiler alert, who ends up being the main villain. But like,
Ooh.
he at
He's like,
first
"He's my friend."
he's like, yeah, he's like being like, like we're like this, and then like gives him up pretty quickly though. Like is like, yeah, I saw him this morning, and I was like, whoa. I was like,
I do like how he's like, "But you're not gonna catch him because
yeah,
he's too smart."
yeah. But again, that's like another. It's a twist on it that I wasn't. Even though I've seen this movie before, I was like, oh, I forgot that he like kind of gives it up, and he's like, yeah, they're like as smart as you, and he's like smarter.
Yes,
It's
I
like it's
love that
those lines.
duality too.
Yeah.
It's true because it is sort of one of those things where he almost is saying, I know that if Richard is out long enough, he'll catch me. He's almost maybe leaning into something like that because I do feel like that's what makes
He
the twist
wants
a little
them
bit
to
more shocking.
catch him, yeah. But he
Yes,
can't
that
be
like
too
he wants to be
eager to let them
yeah.
know that he wants them to, yeah. Is that
Oh man. It's yeah. The twists and turns and like the overarching story is also really interesting to me too. It's so 90s. I
hmm
think today we just like let go of any of the more grounding details in stories like this, and we're just sort of like, oh, he's here and he has to escape, and here's this scene, and he's here and he has to escape, and here's this scene. And I think in this movie there's only two times that Kimball's able to really escape before he has to be ahead of the police and not just like straight up right down the river and somehow still escaping.
yeah.
Like I feel like he really did have to go places because the story required him to go get information, to go be on the run, not just because they were on his tail. And I do feel a little bit like movies that copy this are more interested in the fun of the escape. And I cannot stress how non graceful Harrison Ford is every time he escapes in those initial situations where he's almost like, should I escape? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's another thing I forgot because I again the ripoffs start to kind of like um take over your memory of
Yeah, they
these.
like deteriorated a
Yeah,
little.
but like that he's not the one that like he wasn't responsible for the escape at all. Like it was like
No,
other inmates on the bus and he just was like and he saved somebody and then they had that one cop trying to take credit for it, which was hilarious. Like, yeah, I couldn't leave my partner behind.
I did like how that cop tried to do a solid and was like, everybody's dead. Even
Yeah.
though I think he knew that Rich Campbell got out of there.
And
But
then
it's
Tommy Lee
true.
Jones
Like,
immediately, you want to retract that bullshit story?
so
Just
good.
he's like the
So
perfect
good.
level of asshole. I mean, they bring that back again in Men in Black. It's just like
Y-
that detective asshole that you need. Like he's being that way because he
Straight
wants
shooter.
answers. Yeah. Uh,
Yes. Yeah, like his bullshit meter is off the charts, especially in this one.
yeah. um, what else was I gonna say? Oh, that the other thing too that like you were saying like in a lot of these other ones, aside from like the main character and a lot of these other ones is like an action hero, like turns into like Jason Bourne randomly and is like,
Yes.
taking out cops and it's like, what the fuck? Like it's just a regular guy. Like this is so unrealistic. Like, yeah, like you said, Harrison Ford kind of bumbling around. Like he's smart, but like you never get the feeling that like he's gonna outsmart the cops forever. Like he's gonna get caught eventually. Which I
The
like.
mastery, yeah, of his accidental ability to escape is so good. Like, I don't know how they make it feel grounded, but to your point, like their performances are helping tie these two things together. And I do think that movies today sometimes maybe rely too much on the effects or on the stunts to do that work, which sometimes I think is pretty awesome. But rewatching a movie like this always makes me be like, oh,
Yeah,
and
you could
that's why
just
when you have like,
you can just tell
go ahead.
like producers nowadays being like if they watched this, like they would just be like, you know, he really needs to be the one that like, takes the cop's gun or whatever, like and all this other stuff. Like they would just they'll be like, he doesn't have enough agency, or the audience needs to know that he's the hero or something like that. Like so, but like I said, they do that little dance where like you're not sure if he did kill his wife or not. Like if you're
Hmm.
and I really like that. But then once you get the feeling that it is like a setup, I like that it kind of switches and Harrison Ford is like has these like moments of like grief or whatever, which is like
Yes.
they're like again all the ripoffs do not have that just a moment like that where they're grieving. It's just all action, 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 moving on to the next plot thing. But like
Hmm.
I was thinking in particular the scene where he's what is it like he's seeing someone give mouth to mouth or whatever and then it match cuts to him giving his wife mouth to mouth, or he's something about like he's
Yes.
seeing someone kiss somebody or something and then he like thinks of that
Hmm.
moment and it's just yeah it's like very jarring, but it's like you would if you were going through all of this you probably would get those like fragments of shock and
Yeah.
everything like just hitting you random because he's like in survival mode and then anytime he
Yes.
gets a second to rest those emotions just come flooding. Like I just think they do a really nice job of putting you in
Yeah.
in, in the mindset of someone that just lost their wife and then is being accused, and he had one.
Yes.
I like that line too, where they first arrest him, and he's like, "You find this man!" Like he's just yelling at the cop.
Yes. Yes. He's like, dude, I love Harrison Ford's heavy breath
Yeah,
cry, like right before he cries move.
yeah,
God, it's so good. But yeah, yeah, it's exactly that.
yeah.
This movie is so authentic in the sense that it's also still of that time when emotional worlds were trying to be mirrored in the filmmaking. And I think like it's less about the emotional world being mirrored and it's more about the action and the stunt being mirrored in the filmmaking.
Hmm.
Because here, those depictions, that's like mostly what grief looks like,
Yep.
right? It looks like you're just living your life and then you're sort of hit across the face with a kind of memory that ruins everything for the rest of your day. And Harrison Ford, I think, like is able to encapsulate that so much in the real time versions of those things too, where I do feel like he does appear to be collecting information as it comes.
Hmm.
And a lot of the time, because they want that almost superhero element for their main character, they like know the answers already. And his ability to discover this mystery, like even I was like, wait, what does happen again? Oh
Oh,
yeah.
okay. That was gonna be, if we're moving on to the questions and plot holes, just trying to move us along here. I would
Mm.
say that's one thing that, like, I've seen this movie like a million times. I still could not tell you what the motivation of the villains are. Like, I know it has something to do with like pharmaceutical, like big
It's
pharma
just money.
and
Yeah, it's like
money, but like, if someone asked me to explain it, I'd be like, I don't know. I just watched it 20 minutes ago and I couldn't tell.
you know that it has to do with Provasic, and you
Yeah.
know that it has to do with faking results for some reason and a cover up. And I think that's what's kind of fun about it too, is it almost has a noir storyline for an action movie,
Hmm.
which is kind of cool as well. But that's exactly it, is that like it doesn't actually matter. That stuff doesn't need to matter. Like we don't have to have too much of a moral relationship to what's happening to Richard Kimball, because like that's not what this movie's about. Like it's not about why he was framed, really. It's about him being able to take his life back by exposing the fact that he was framed. And I think this movie does a good job of not trying to get us twisted in the whole pharmaceutical debate. That's for another movie. This one is more, this guy is just uncovering what happened to him, so he's getting to reconcile the trauma he's gone through of being wrongfully accused, and then he's also getting to get justice for his wife. It's like all about stuff that has nothing to do with Provasic, so not remembering is good.
I think the best movies, like, that's really the only one I have, if I'm being honest. Like, I think this is a really solid, tight movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you can nitpick, like, would the cops really know that it was the L train based on the, audio mix or whatever? But it's like, you have to have some investigating bullshit for the audience to be like, oh, they're
Yes.
on his tracks or whatever. And I feel like they even acknowledge that, because like they have the joke of like Tommy Lee Jones being like, I knew it was the L train all along.
Exactly.
Like they're even acknowledging, like, yeah, this is like, kind of nonsense, but like it's a cool scene, like where it's like,
Yes.
back up, back up, back up, and it's like they're, can you just single out that the conductor or whatever, like it's like you're watching them
Mm-hmm.
do police work or whatever. And again, like that's something that I feel like a lot of the ripoffs, it's
Mm.
they're, a lot of times they'll just skimp out on like, they're just like, yeah, they audiences know what the police work looks like. And it's like, no, like, make something interesting that we haven't seen before, that's like cool like
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what I feel like is lacking, is that like this movie has a lot of grounding moments that are not about just trying to pull my focus or just trying to shock me or something. Like they are moments where I see all of these real people in a scene appear to be collaborating and listening to each other in real time, because this is an extreme situation, so I
Hmm.
don't need by the book cop work, right? Like I do need
Yeah.
cops being like, my neck's on the line here, I gotta try something creative.
Yeah.
you know
Well,
and
like,
I
you get the, like, we got to talk about, if we're like, getting into filmmaking stuff. Like,
let's go.
did you have any plot holes or anything before we move into it?
Honestly, the fact that he keeps getting away, like,
Okay.
occasionally, I'm sort of like, you keep getting away,
Yeah.
and you are bumbling." But I feel like they only really
And
do
he
it a
takes
couple
a
times.
lot of chances too, like, to add to
Yes.
that. Like, he is
Yes,
not,
he
like,
does.
hiding out somewhere and, like, biding his time. He's like, "Let me walk into this hospital full of cops." Like,
Yeah. Yeah, let
so
me steal someone's let me do all the things that he does in the hospital. I don't wanna give them away 'cause they're so funny in
but
real time
again,
if you've
you
never
need
seen
that,
this.
and so without those chances, you wouldn't get the great scene of Tommy Lee Jones going up the stairs as he's going down the stairs, and then him being like, "Wait, was that?" And then like turning
Yeah,
around and being like, "Richard."
yes, and him being like,
Yeah, and then yeah, that I was gonna say that priceless face you're talking about, like of him looking up, like, like,
he makes it so many
yeah,
times,
he
and it
does.
looks so good,
I
and
know.
I think that's part of it too, is that he's not a paranoid guy, so
Mm-mm.
I feel like in some of these movies where the action hero does kind of know a little too much, it makes sense that he's a little more paranoid or has more of an idea of when people are gonna know he's doing something, and I feel like, Harrison Ford takes a lot of chances here because he's not paranoid. He doesn't think the cops are gonna see him
He's just
everywhere,
desperate.
everyone's
I
gonna
feel
be
like
after
at
him.
that point, it's
Yes.
more out of desperation.
Yes.
Like, you know what? If I get caught, at least like I
I
tried to
have to
like prove
try.
my innocence. Yeah. Um.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, such a strong choice.
Yeah. For the filmmaking stuff, I would just say I love people who are good at their jobs in movies. I think it's
Mhm.
one of the best things you can do is just I don't know, I don't care what job it is, but just have them. So
Character, man.
when Tommy Lee Jones shows up, that's got to be one of the best introductions. Like it's just like he's on fire immediately,
Yeah.
and like the way they shoot it too. It's like they don't like automatically like show him. It's kind of like in the
Yeah, they
background,
give him
like
the full
waiting for him, like a superhero or some shit is like coming onto the crime scene, and then when he does come on, and he gives that great speech of like, "All right, I need these people out here. I need you guys to go down there."
yes.
I don't care if it's a doghouse, outhouse. You find the
Yep,
son of
get
a
in
bitch.
there.
Yeah, and it's just
It's
like
true.
all right, we're on. Like, okay, yeah, like, and
I mean, it's just good character
yeah,
development and then actors that know what to do with it. Because I love how when he's in the hospital too, like Harrison Ford, how he, like, he steals the apple or whatever, and then he's, like, looking at the, kid's X-rays, and just
oh
all of his
yeah,
behaviors again, they look like they did
through
like,
action,
he
what we
looks
talked
like he
about.
changes in a hospital because he's a doctor,
Hmm.
not because he's, like, on the run, but because when he goes to a hospital, he checks into being a doctor at a hospital, and you see that human moment where he's both this guy trying to prove something, but also like I care about people. I want to help them,
Yeah,
and
he's
now I'm
kind
in
of
this.
like he's like sitting on the ledge there, and then he's like watching these doctors just fuck up, and he's like,
I gotta help
do
you.
I say something like,
Yep. So
like,
good.
that's not right. He's like whispering himself. He's like, just do it, just do it. Like,
He's got to.
I
He's
also
got to.
wrote down this line again with the Tommy Lee Jones introduction. I just fucking love it so much when he's just like, you do this, and then he's like, Johnson, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just thinking. He's like, yeah, think me up a cup of coffee and a donut with some of those sprinkles on it.
Yeah. While you're at it, why don't you think
Yeah.
about
Like again, just the most sarcastic, like asshole character, but like I just love it. I
so
don't know. I
genius?
love it so much. I understand why he won the Oscar. Like
Yeah.
I completely get it. Like this
Fully
character,
embodies this
yeah,
guy.
exactly.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah,
good.
he is just such a pro, and I wanna say that that line is even ad-libbed. Like, I wanna
Probably,
say that
yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones even was, like, so in the character that he was able to respond to that authentically.
Yeah, then I don't care obviously. And then this is another throwaway that I love when they think they have Harrison Ford trapped in that tunnel, and then when he
Mhm.
finds the sewer and he's like, "We got a gopher."
Yes,
And I'm
yes!
like, is that like a technical police term, or is that just something like Tommy Lee just brought like, this guy's in the hole, like
Exactly.
we gotta go for like
This is the way this is how this guy sees the world, and he's just living through him. And that's
uh
exactly it. I think when you can't see the difference between the actors, like between the words that the actor is bringing to life and the performance itself, that's what makes like a really good actor. And I just feel like that's what Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones can always do, because this movie is a great example of different performances they rarely play. Tommy Lee Jones is always a cop, but rarely is he a kind of cop that is like this kitschy, right? This
mhm.
cheeky, this full of himself almost. And rarely is Harrison Ford a bumbling
I was
dude
gonna
who's
say he's usually the leading man that like knows everything and is like the sarcastic dick, like. But so they're
who's
subverting
calm
it
and
all
collected.
around. Where again, but
Oh,
they're playing on those expectations. Definitely, like the casting is perfect, but intentional in that way too. Where it's like Harrison Ford couldn't have killed his wife. Could he? Like, and it's like question mark. And then yeah, like Joey Pants, obviously, like all those guys, just like
epic.
again add to that realism. There's that one character actor who just has like the best Chicago cop beard, like mustache ever.
Yes.
Like it's just hilarious. Which brings me to before I forget, bearded Harrison Ford, yay or nay? I have to run it by you.
It's gonna be a hard no for me. It's gonna be a hard no.
Damn. Okay,
Um,
why? You gotta.
Only because he just like looks so he looks really like a lot older to me with the beard, which is weird.
Oh, okay.
Because now I see him as like an older guy, and I just feel like the beard did make him look more evil. So when he like
Hmm.
shaved his face, I was kind of like, huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like obviously we need to be able to drastically change appearance to keep this thing going. But it is true. I always forget he has a beard. I always think it's just like a mustache or something he shaves off,
No,
but
he
it
looks like
is
a
like
straight
a
up
full
a
beard.
caveman at the beginning. It's kind of funny.
He really,
And then he
he really
shaves,
does.
and I like that one scene where the cop questions him, and he's like, "You seen this guy? 6'1" with brown eyes and a beard?" He's like, "I see
Every
myself.
time I
Look
look
in the
in the
mirror."
mirror.
Except for the beard, I'm like, this guy is cocky, man. Like, damn.
Right? Yep.
But I
Yep.
guess
This
you
guy
kind of
is
have to
out
have
here.
that confidence, but oh man. Okay, second question. I forgot to put this in my questions potholes, I guess. But do you think this movie is too long? I have to. It clocks in at about like 2:10, something like that. 2 hours
Hmm.
10. Because I think it's one of those things where I would say like the first hour and a half, I'm like, this is perfect. Like I wouldn't change a damn thing. And then you get to like the last 30, 45, and it's like they have one or two extra set pieces that I think, like, I don't know if it was like from other
You don't.
movies or like there was like, we just don't know what to cut, so we'll just put them all in here. You know what I mean? It
I'm
definitely
with you.
feels that way where it's like, oh, this is where the bad guy finally gets caught, and then it's like, oh, we're in the different dining area now, like or like
You're like, mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm.
So I would say a little bit. I would say definitely. I think some could have been cut at the end.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
a tight thriller is like tighter. I feel like is always better to keep that.
yeah, for me, I want my thrillers to be like 143 to
Hmm.
147, you know? Um, that's really not 147, an hour and 47.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel like this movie it's one of those ones where I don't always notice that I have spent that much time watching it. Like sometimes I can be really engaged with it, but like when it is on TV or something, that's when I'm usually like, yeah, fucking come on, I'm trying to get to the end of this
Yeah.
movie now.
Obviously, I love the scene where he goes to the jail for that guy, but it is like when you think about it, like afterwards, it
Dude,
is kind of
that's
pointless that he just goes to the guy and he's like, "I made a mistake," and then walks away. And you're just like, okay,
especially because he
that's
goes
it.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the fact that he goes in there, I think we could lose that just because that one's maybe the most absurd
Like
of
if
his
even
escapes.
you can have him attempt to go in there and then get stopped before he can go, like, or something like that. Like I just but just the way it plays out is so funny. Like that he's like, well, we're here, man. It's boring. We ain't got no cable in there.
Yeah, please talk
I
to
felt
me,
bad for
please.
that guy. I was like, oh man, he just wants someone to talk to him.
Yes. Yeah, that was like a good quick moment where they're like, we understand that this movie is not going to talk about how hard it was for Richard Kimball in prison. So this character very quickly is going to let us give us a little insight there. But it's true that that one is a little bit wild for him to sort of go in there. And yeah, I think this movie is like walking the line of a lot of people outside of the main cast helping to ground the story, helping to create authenticity. So I do feel like sometimes there probably could have been things tightened up a little bit.
I think
But
so.
I don't know. This is one of those ones where like I'm definitely not like, oh, this is the part of the movie it drags per se.
I like physically just felt it. Maybe that's because I'm tired, but it was like the last 20 minutes. I was like, oh man, okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, we've been sitting through some fucking 3 hour
I
plus
know,
movies
and
for a
I'm
while.
going to the
So,
movies after this too. So it's like, oh,
oh, what are you gonna go see?
they're showing Dario Argento's opera at this theater by my house. Yeah,
The Odd House
in
Theater.
in 4K, fully
Oh,
restored in
sick.
4K. So, and I've never seen it, and my friend's never seen it, so it's gonna be
Hmm.
hopefully.
It's gonna be fun for pacing. It'll be a fun
Well, I
exercise
looked
in
at the
pacing.
runtime, and it's like an hour 40, and I'm like, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
very good.
whenever I see that. If I get like a 90 hour 40, I'm like, that's my sweet spot. I'm like, that's now
Yes.
we're cooking. And then like I was looking at the reviews, and all of them were being like, this is the last Argento masterpiece, and I'm like, okay, cool, all right,
Yeah.
I want to see it.
I gotta hear about it. That's one I haven't seen. I went down some holes before, but I haven't seen that one.
Yeah,
And yeah, I guess like it's interesting to think about because I think the reason The Fugitive is like longer than maybe it needs to be is because it is walking a line of not just being an action movie. Like it is elevated. It's kind of a drama too, to go back to what we were talking about in terms of like him being traumatized. His wife was murdered. So it's like they don't sleep on that and leave that out of the story for the action. They do try to have that dramatic center, and that's probably what they needed to like throw an extra 20 minutes on for.
and I feel like even and we should mention that they made a sequel to this, brought Tommy Lee Jones back, ran it back again, U.S.
Wesley
Marshal with
Snipes.
Leslie
Yeah.
Snipes, and I do think like they did make him like the action guy though, like to our
Yeah.
point, like because I couldn't even tell you like what's the dramatic like if he like did he kill his wife? I don't remember what the setup was, but
I
it
rewatched it like 3 years ago. Fuck, I
but
can't remember what it.
it probably is because they literally recycle like the same like all the way down to the twist. It's like
Yeah, it's the
literally
wrong
shot for shot
cues.
like remake with Tommy Lee Jones just back again. Like you would think he would learn his lesson the first time. Like maybe we shouldn't like press this guy so hard. Like,
Hmm.
but nope. He's like as he says in when he shoots the perp, he's like we don't negotiate.
That's right. That's right.
I
You
thought,
think I should have negotiated? Yep.
yeah, that's maybe one scene too where it's like, yeah, because like that's one scene where again they could have cut that scene because it's like, all right, we know
Yeah, we can tell
he's a
who he is.
badass,
Hmm.
and then they go to a scene afterwards where they're talking, and the guy's like, I can't hear, and it's like, oh damn, like I
Exactly.
don't,
Exactly.
why do
There's
we
like
need?
one extra breath, one extra breath for the real grounded
Yeah.
consequences. And that is true. It's like later we realize we don't necessarily need that. I'm glad it's in this story. But yeah, in retrospect, if I don't have to sit for more than an hour and 45 minutes, I really don't want to. I really don't want to.
Okay, I found one other nitpick in my notes.
Ooh.
Have to
Okay.
have to mention it. It's pretty. I just like why did he steal the ambulance? I just feel like that was such a bad idea. It's like if you're trying to flee from the cops, maybe pick a car that's not as obvious as because like literally as soon as he does it, you see them in the chopper like
Where's
we're
the
following an ambulance. He's going northbound. It's like well, now they know exactly what to look for. It's not like, brown Chevy or something like that. It's like, nope.
no.
So one ambulance like that we can just spot or whatever. And they find him like immediately, like driving.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
like,
understand I mean, I guess it was like just there, but I'm just like, dude, like if
we've
anything,
been.
when he's in that lab like the doctor's outfit,
Yep.
it's like I would just be like producer's hat, just be like go up to like a random car and be like, this is a medical emergency, I need your car or something like that, and just
And see if I
make
can
some
get in
shit up.
there.
Yeah.
Yep. But I like again, to your point, like that's because we're more sophisticated, right? Like I'm
He's
sure that in
desperate. He's
his
just,
time,
again,
yeah.
he's probably
But it
not thinking that far ahead. He's just like, I need to get out of here.
yeah,
Here's a
he's
car.
probably like yeah. Well, because I think that's it too, is he doesn't in the beginning of this movie and for a while, he doesn't understand how the police are so on his tail. Like he is trying to understand how they follow him in real time too. And I think like that's part of the turnaround when he's like, okay, I actually have to be smart about this because people do not trust me. So I have to prove what's going on and I have to be smarter because I can't get caught before I prove it. I have to prove it now. And I
Yeah.
do feel like there's kind of a turning point after the hospital scene where he realizes that like he's got to be firm. And maybe that's like part of the I've made a mistake scene where like he realizes that like he's barking up the wrong trees here. He's got to be smarter than this.
I also think like the one-armed man aspect of it, you could probably say is like a little weird, but
Recently.
I know just from like I don't know, just like from previous knowledge or conversations that like that's from the TV show or whatever. So like I
Uh-huh.
guess that's like something like a vestige from the TV show where like
Canon.
he has to prove his innocence, and there is like a guy with like a one armed
It
man,
wasn't me.
and
It
that
was the one I read.
and I kind of like it. I kind of like that. It's like it's easy to laugh at, but it also is like it's so ridiculous that you can see why the cops wouldn't take it serious.
Yes. And it's
Um,
unique. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah, and so it's like yeah, I'm not. It wouldn't work for every movie, but then it does play a big part in it, and like him investigating it, like going into that part of the hospital and like
Yes.
using his Google skills, using his computer skills to narrow it down, like all that
So
stuff
good.
is pretty fun, I would say. Although like you would think the cops would like check that out, like even if they thought it was ridiculous, be like, all right, all the one-armed guys with criminal records, let's
We should
run that
still check it out.
yeah.
Yeah, we should still check it out.
They just dismiss it like pretty quickly, like yeah, it's this is our guy, and
Mhm.
the judge too, like
I feel like
he's got the
that's part
death
of it.
penalty. I forgot that too. He was about to be
Yeah.
put to death. I
Yeah, so
forgot
he's
about
pretty
that.
desperate.
So shit.
They're
Yeah.
not messing around. They're not messing around in this story,
Not in
and I guess, like
Chicago.
yeah, no, no, definitely not. But that's the turning point for each of them, is that, like, he realizes he has to take it more seriously and not get caught, and they realize they have to stop treating him like he's just the average felon, like, the reason they can't catch up to him, like, in some weird way, I feel like the filmmaker's trying to be like, "It's because he's innocent. That's
Yeah.
why they can't catch him." And that's, like, only something in a movie you'd be able to try to do.
Okay, another thing this movie does better than a lot of the other imitators is like they have
Okay.
the whole cop dick measuring contest where it's like, this is my crime scene, blah 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 blah, at the
Yes.
beginning when Tommy Lee Jones shows up. But I just love it because like that cop is being such an asshole to him at first that like Tommy Lee Jones is like, okay, all right. And then like finally, like when it gets, puts his dick on the table, and he's like, what's your jurisdiction on this? And he's like, you can go to the court office, the state, blah blah blah. And then the girl like hands him the paper, and he's just like, what? Fine, you can take it. Like he's just so flustered from it.
Yep.
The DA, like he's just yeah, it's oh man, it's
It's
so good.
epic.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's those little details are the reason why we do this, why we like movies at all, and why we need to talk about them. Because those little details, whether sometimes we like need them or not, I'm really grateful they're there, and this is exactly an example of that.
I mean, I just think he runs away with the movie. I honestly like literally think like he is the reason there's a sequel. Is like this
Yes,
we have gold here in Tommy Lee Jones as this U.S.
we need
Marshal
more of
guy,
it.
and we need to do it
Mhm.
again. And they just did the exact same thing again, but
And, like,
you
who
know,
saw that coming?
I
Who
know.
saw Tommy Lee Jones becoming one of the first, franchise darlings? He's doing it here, he's doing it in Men in Black.
Black,
Who would have ever thought it would be him?
yeah,
Not me, but I'm into it. I like it.
yeah. He's my favorite performance in the film. I don't know if you have one that you want to talk about.
It's got to be Jane Lynch for me. She's just playing it so grounded. There's no jokes in sight, and I love when you find a comedian actor in some part of their career not being funny. It's
Yeah.
my favorite thing in the world, so it's got to be Jane Lynch over here.
Yeah, if we're talking about like supporting roles, like I think the Julianne Moore thing is pretty like entertaining too, where it's just like,
Classic.
she's like calling Harrison Ford on his bullshit, like he's like, it's a hobby. She's, she's like, oh, you just like to look at X-rays. I call it bullshit. Like, you stay right there. Like,
That's right. Don't you move.
yeah. Takes his like badge, and it's just, yeah, that part is pretty funny. And then yeah, he ends up saving that kid's life. Like, how can you be mad? He's just
That's
good
right.
dude.
Can't help it but be a good guy. Can't help it. So different from his contemporary men and their thrillers like Michael Douglas. Different
Yes,
guy.
different energy too. Different energy. Yeah, not a lot of kills in this for necessarily. It's more of a thriller
Per se.
instead of a killer. So yeah, in terms of stunts, like what were some that stood out to you? I think I have one or two that I'm kind of juggling with right now. So like, why don't you go first?
It's pretty much all Harrison Ford's stunts are just the win for me. The bumblingness of it everywhere we go, like particularly I think when he is in the like river and the woods, where
Hmm.
he's like in the river water, I was sort of like, whoa, shit, that is actually Harrison Ford, like in
Yeah,
this bustling river. And then like when he buries himself like in the leaves and stuff, I was like,
that
yeah,
yeah,
let's
he makes a little leaf blanket. That was so funny.
pretty good. Pretty
Oh
good.
man. Yeah, I was gonna so mine, I guess it's like in the same, stretch. So I guess I can kind of bundle them. But I just so part of it's the Harrison Ford like doing the flip into the river. I thought that was a cool
Yes.
stunt that still looks really good. Just a front flip, and then you get the cops. I think what sells it though is you get the cops looking down off the ledge. Joey Pants and Tommy Lee Jones, and then Joey Pants is just like, holy shit, like it just
And
really
Tommy Lee
sells it.
Jones, shock. True
Yeah.
shock.
And then, and I love Tommy Lee Jones doesn't miss a beat. They're all like, there's a 1 in a million chance that somebody would survive that. And he's like, well, you better dig up a body. Like, just
That's right. I'll
not
need to see the
satisfied.
million.
Not satisfied.
Mhm.
And then the other one I thought was really, I mean, it was like, I had the surround sound. It was like banging. Like my living room was the train sequence. It was like the
Mhm.
mix on that was super good and powerful. And again, I think what sells that is just like the small thing. It's like Harrison Ford having to save that guy, like decide whether he's just going to save himself or save that guy. And then there's like you can see in the shot there's like 2 feet like pressed against the window or whatever. It's like from a random, I don't know, inmate or something like that. But it's like,
Mhm.
those are just like fake feet or whatever. But it's like it just sells it that like, okay, there's other people on here. And so when the train hits the car and it's like just boom, explosion, like very loud. And
Yes,
that whole
so
sequence, like when the guy fakes the seizure and like shanks the cop and then like the shotgun, it just happens like so quickly. Like all that action and so I thought all those stunts in that were like really well done and
agreed.
memorable. That sets all the action in motion like right there, and then it's just like the foot race for the rest of the movie. So
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, yeah, this movie has for all of the, like, drama and groundedness and authenticity, the action is equally as powerful,
yes,
and I feel like they got a lot of aerial shots in this movie that people really sleep on, except for Michael Bay, because he never sleeps and is always doing aerial shots. But I
uh,
do feel like those aerial shots, they're, like, harder than people think, and I feel like with drones, I should see more of them, but I don't, and so I feel like, I need to rewatch this movie with a good mix, or, man, I wish that this one was getting released in theaters again so I could try to see it on a big screen. That'd be
that'd be
probably
interesting. I'd be
pretty
like trying to think like what like holiday you could. I mean, they have the St. Patrick's Day parade. Maybe you could do like a St. Patty's Day.
Let's go!
Initiative where I think it was
It's
just like
true.
because of the Green River thing in Chicago, it was a huge thing. So like I think that
Gotta
was like,
feature it.
yeah, it's like trying to sell the Chicago aspect of it, which I actually we didn't mention that, but I think that's a good call too, where it's like most movies are, especially these types of movies, LA. New York.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like it's very rare to get like just like a Midwest Chicago type story thriller like this, and they get a lot of mileage on it with like
Love it.
the train sequence, which was another action part where he you know, the one-armed man tries to kill him and ends up
Yeah.
shooting the cop, and then he like, you know, he I mean, Harrison Ford's trademark, I think we talked about it before, it's just the sucker punch, just like I don't
Yes.
know, just like all of his like force into it, and then yeah, and then just like you know, puts the handcuffs on him and then drops the guns in the mailbox. Again, it's just like,
Yep.
it's like you can just tell this guy's just no plan. He's just like, oh, all right, I'm gonna put these here. Let me just
Yeah. Yep. I just want to get out of this
Yeah.
situation. Get me out of here. It's true. It's true.
So,
He's a unique character, and the '90s there were so many movies in Chicago, and this is a great one. So yeah, maybe there should just be like a Chicago fest where like for a week straight, just the best Chicago movies featuring the city should be
yeah,
there, and the
I was
fugitive
like
should be
trying to
number
think of
one.
like best Chicago movies because I forgot this was in Chicago. But I mean, like,
Ooh, let's
I'd have to put so top three right
we'd have to
now.
do it.
Just thinking right
Hmm.
now, got to put Ferris Bueller's Day Off in there. That's probably my number one.
Yes,
Followed
absolutely.
by Blues Brothers, probably maybe number two.
Ooh,
And
all
then,
right,
you know, you can add this on there. I think this is a solid in the top five somewhere, maybe. I don't know.
for sure.
I'm sure I'm
Child's
forgetting
Play's
some,
got to be in
but
there.
oh, it's true. I forgot. See, I always forget some of these because it's like, but yeah, and then like as the Midwestern accent expert on this podcast, I will say that the accents were legit.
Hmm.
I don't think anyone overdid it. Like they were just doing like the slightly exaggerated like cop Chicago cop accent, and like
Yep.
there's some times where I would say the most egregious recently is I watched Black Hat with Chris Hemsworth, and I don't know what.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my god, you have to watch it. I mean,
All right.
it's worth a watch, but like whatever accent Chris Hemsworth is going for is like not working at all. Like and it's like it goes in and out. Like it's like sometimes he's trying to do like the most like, hey, Joe, down the street there, hey, like like
Fuck.
Chicago accent,
That sucks.
but then it just like drops like halfway through. It's solid though. It's Michael Mann, so you're getting,
Yeah.
I
There's other stuff.
I will let you know because they're actually releasing either the Blu-ray or the 4K in the next coming months, and
Oh,
that's supposed to have the director's cut on there, which hasn't been released yet. So I'm
oh,
interested to see what
you'll
they
have to.
changed for that because again, I thought the original was solid. It's definitely not like a perfect thriller. Again, casting Chris Hemsworth as like a hacker is like
Oh, great.
kind of funny. But
Yep.
you know, what are you gonna do? Hollywood.
Yep.
So
It rarely works out as perfectly as it does in some of these movies, but we can make allowances when there are auteur directors for sure.
Harrison Ford as a
Um,
doctor. I mean, I think that was more believable. I think that was more
yeah,
believable.
I think I could go with it. He definitely
He has
embodied
that
it in the right
everyday
way.
man look. You know what I mean? He has
He
that
does.
everyday. I think that's
Yeah,
what gets him away most of the time. But
it's
yeah,
true. It lets him sneak in.
there's some. I was listening to this podcast too. They were talking about. Oh, they were talking about most unrealistic actors for their jobs because
Okay,
they're talking about So I Married an Axe Murderer, and
best movie ever. One of the
the
greatest.
female lead in there is a butcher, and she's like the hottest butcher of all time. And it's like, when have you ever seen a hot butcher in,
I'm hard pressed.
in your life? And it's just like that's some Hollywood shit right there. It's just like, yeah, let's just make her like she's the only
Uh,
butcher that works at the shop, and she's just like one of the hottest people you've ever
really
seen
into
in a
it.
movie.
Yep.
So
Yep, really into meats. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that people ask us to stretch for. So when the stretches are as fun and as like clutch as they can be in a movie like this, I will always be here for it. So
yeah,
yeah, you'll have to keep
definitely.
me in the loop about that, and I'll have to get the lowdown on opera. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I'll let you know.
anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's it. That's all I got.
All right.
All right, I think that wraps it up, guys. Yeah, why don't you do our plugs and let's get out of here then. Let them know people where
Cool.
they can find us.
Yes, never miss a minute of the action. And follow the show at We Stay Buff on all the socials and the Buffs on YouTube. And follow me personally at It's Me Shani B on all those platforms as well.
Yes, and then don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you have time, please leave a positive review, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Follow me on X, I guess, at Rampage_Misfit. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be on there, so but you'll figure it out. And my movie page is at Misfit_Minded on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time for another edition of Movie Bus. Stay buff.